Hey everybody, I'm Dee Lisa. I'm the dream doula for women and I help women live their best life.
Hey, I'm Terence Leclere, and I help clients find connection through immersion.
Immersion. I was just
Yeah.
watching your TED Talk and you started it off by saying this is an immersive experience. I'm like, wait, what? I'm watching you on YouTube. How is it immersive? But tell me more about having an immersive experience in the work that you do.
Well, that's perfect. Yeah. So my company's called Meta for You because I really enjoy getting meta in the sense that like you're watching the talk on YouTube, and that to me is an immersive experience, making the audience aware of where they are. Um, is is the immersive experience in my opinion because talking about immersion, there's only one person being immersed at a time, and that's you. That's the person who's listening to this right now, who's like watching this, who's seeing from inside their heads, listening through their senses. Um, so that ties into this element of presence. It's it's like the um, crux, like the center point of any immersive experience. Because working in a lot of immersive experiences, like the trap is like you create a bunch of stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
just like you want to surround the people. You want to like, it's almost like more like submersive theater, where it's like just plunge them in this world and they're just surrounded with all this stuff. But all in all, like the audience member, the guest is the one being immersed. So starting from their experience of what is happening to me is much more interesting than trying to throw a bunch of stuff at them and hoping that they catch it or hoping that they see it. It's instead it's developing the sense of empathy of understanding the guest's journey and like what they're seeing. So like yeah, in the talk, I think I do mention at certain times like you watching this,
Yeah.
like talking about like you're the star of this story. I'm the one speaking, but you're the one listening. So the story is for you.
I
Um,
love that.
Very astute.
Love
Yeah.
that. I was just thinking, I was just longing
Mm,
for the same kind of experience that I had over 20 years ago. And I was invited to a women's summer solstice celebration, women only, on this land. You got the address after you signed up. There were 120 women there. I had no, this is way before I was even thinking about helping people with dreams or spirituality or anything. I'm just like, well, I left my babies at home and I went there with my sister. And the first thing that happened was someone greeted you in the parking lot, told you where to put your car, told you you had to walk in the rest of the way, and they said, "Would you like us to sage you?" Or they had some kind of smoke thing going on. And if you said yes, they would put the smoke around you. And by the way, if you're listening, don't go buy white sage in the store. It's an endangered plant. Get it from a friend.
mm,
Back to the story though. I felt so welcomed and I felt so magical after I had been cleansed, leaving the real life behind to go into this weekend immersive experience. And part of it just seemed magical. Like wherever I walked, there was a thing to go eat. There was a thing to go drumming. There was a thing to go make some kind of art. There was what we called theater of the goddess, where everyone could get up and do a presentation on the last night. And we stayed up
wow.
until everyone had done what they wanted to do. It was so beautiful. And then we had to be reminded you're going back to the world. So be gentle with yourself and, leave this here but take some of it with you. But now you have to be awake and aware and pay attention to traffic and all that stuff. So it was really cool. And I thought, when will I ever have that again?
Oh
I
my
was just thinking that.
goodness. That sounds amazing. Yeah, hit them up again. Like how did you first hear about the, you know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah,
That's
yeah, I don't know if they're still doing it. And I moved away from Washington State. It was up in Washington.
nice.
And you know how things go like that. Like there's a core group of people, and then sometimes then after a while they don't get along and it falls apart or it stays
Oh.
together or whatever.
Yeah, wow, that's wild, but that's an amazing experience. I mean, thanks so
Mm.
much for sharing it, because that's, I think, the power of this kind of work, where um it's kind of become really popular in the marketing world and, in kind of corporate activations. And it's because even done at a very basic level, it creates a space for people to feel like they can connect uh, and find community and be present. Um, and again, even if it's done like a very minimal level, which means like a photo op or something, or
Yeah.
you get like like a t-shirt or something. Like
Mhm.
it's the promise or opportunity and the possibility of just having an experience like the one you just shared. That's why people like show up. That's why people are drawn to it because it's people long for that.
Yeah. I went for many years, even though I'm not really a outdoorsy kind of gal, and it was tent camping.
Yeah, sure.
Bring your tent.
Wow.
And the food was terrible too. They made you 3 meals a day, but it was like, oh no.
It's the thought that
But
counts.
I
But
think
that,
it was good for some people. It wasn't good for me.
sure, sure. And I mean, I love that somebody was there welcoming you and then
Yeah,
also like, like onboarding, offboarding, like
exactly.
so important. And that's, I call it like framing in the sense of like, theatrical conventions, like you go see a play, right? And that's a convention everyone knows and understands. As you walk in the theater, you sit down, there's a stage, curtain goes up, whatever happens on stage, that's part of the play, or, maybe breaks the fourth wall, stuff like that. Curtain goes down, lights go up, you walk out, that's the end, right? That's their onboarding and offboarding is basically you
Yeah,
going into theater and coming out of it.
yeah,
Um, and so having somebody there just welcoming people like and setting the intention and the mood, and it's so wonderful. I'm really interested in hearing who these people were because that's like totally up my alley, stuff like that. I obviously wouldn't be able to go, but
What
just very
kind of,
cool.
yeah, you had to be under the age of 5 if you were a male.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then but yes, it was a beautiful experience, and I'm sure that could be recreated
Yeah,
uh,
it is, it's really
in so
there's
many
a
places.
totally there's like this convergence, like a lot of, so I'm based in LA and a lot of creators, but also New York, also like all over the place. Like a lot of creators of this work sort of delve into like something that's very akin to rituals, those kind of experiences, because um, it is a form of, theater is not maybe not the right term, but of doing the ritual is an experiential form of storytelling.
Yes.
There's, story living. I think Stephanie Riggs said that, or story being. Just the way of a rite of passage, right? Like a
Hmm.
ritual is an immersive experience in the sense that you're experiencing and you're immersed in the sense that you're present in the moment, ideally. Um, and so there is a lot of just convergence between what are very traditional rituals and this type of theater and work, um, which is
So you
really
came
great.
from theater,
Yeah.
being an actor, and now I totally understand because of what we're saying that anything you put on that's a performance or a function is theater also.
We could call it that, right? And I mean, it's
Yeah.
funny because so I'll work with non-actors sometimes because like part of our interpersonal dynamics design for live events is we'll work with staff to kind of get them to pretend and play along with a theme. And
Mhm.
sometimes they're not actors, but people will be scared of the word acting. They'll be like,
Yes.
"Oh, I didn't train. I don't know what I'm doing." But the truth is we all pretend. We all know what pretending is, and we all know how to. We all in our lives will kind of make decisions as to, okay, I'm going to talk to this person. And it's not necessarily putting on a theatrical performance, but in a way, it's an action, and so you are an actor by taking action, right? As in you're actively
Oh, that's
participating.
beautiful.
Yeah, and so thinking of it that way, it just opens up a lot of ideas as to what like what theater could mean. And especially if you make it something that um, the audience participates in. Who's the actor now, right? Who's the one taking
Mm,
action in the story
true.
and moving
Yeah.
it along? Um, yeah, it makes me think of like Shakespeare, the world's a stage and things like that. I th
Or
it,
anyone, any
mm,
kind of like for many years, I was a real estate broker. And
mm,
I remember telling a friend of mine who lived in New Zealand, she was uh, watching me get ready. I said, "Oh, I'm putting on my costume.
mm,
I'm putting on my makeup. Now I'm fixing my hair. I'm going to put on a suit with a silk shirt underneath it, and all my dry cleaning clothes." I think back then it was like big shoulder pads, big hair. And then I felt like I could go out and talk to people about buying or selling a house.
mm,
I wouldn't, and at the end of my career, I would just go meet them in my sweats or my shorts or whatever I was wearing. That was totally acceptable. But at the point where I was sort of a beginning baby real estate broker, I felt like I had to act in a particular way, speak in a particular way. I was told if I had glasses, I looked smarter. So I bought some readers. I'm like, I put these glasses on. I could not see the people I was
oh
talking
no.
to, but I thought I look smart.
Yeah, no, I get that. I actually, yeah, I do the same thing.
There
But
you go. Yeah.
it's yeah, it's funny, especially for acting. Yeah, isn't that funny? It's almost like we all perform for each other, and that's like it makes me think of the phrase like, "Oh, fake it till you make it,"
Right.
and it makes me wonder like, while faking it, like what is real? You know, we decide. Reality is relative to the mind in which it occurs, and it's just adding up certain data points and just saying, okay, well, reality is this, this, and that. Um, but truth is that it's in constant flux. It's in just everything's just changing. Um, and
Oh, would you
so,
say that again? Reality is what to the
oh,
mind?
reality is relative to the mind in which it occurs. And that's a phrase that I got, I believe, I think it was Maharishi Mahesh Yogi who said that, or somebody from the Shankara tradition. I
Mhm.
learned transcendental meditation. It was a form of transcendental meditation. You know, like that's a long story about that, but it mantra-based meditation. Um, and
Everyone I've met, by the
yeah,
way, sorry to interrupt,
yeah,
everyone I've met who's learned transcendental meditation continued to do it their entire life after they learned it. Are you one of those people?
yeah. It's very trippy. That there was like a moment I learned in 2001, and there was like resistance because I knew that once I started this, I wouldn't be able, it would be the rest of my life. And that kind of
Hmm.
speaks to the sense of mortality of just like, you know, I don't know, I like the idea of just like, well, anything, I could change this at any time. But then there's certain things where it's just like, it's almost like you're being pulled to a direction and you're like, okay, like I could just hang out in the lobby for as long as I want, but eventually I'm gonna have to go in the theater or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's why I'm here. And so this sense of like, yeah, what I thought of as the truth, which is such a funny thing because it's like the truth, being sort of obsessed with the truth. And it's not so much truth as much as clarity or as
Hmm.
much as
Hmm.
like light of just seeing what is there so known versus unknown is probably closer to or understood versus not understood is probably closer to truth or not truth but so yeah like and so like meditating, it's funny because I did it twice a day every day for like 10 years. Um and then gradually what happens, I mean my experience of it, right? Like so your body gets this experience of silence. It gets this experience of just wanting of like home, you know. And your body wants to go back there. It loves that rest. It wants that
Mm.
deep rest. Um, and so it'll naturally go there. And so like the mantra effectively is there to keep your mind lively, thinking about something while your body gets the rest that it wants. It gets to go home. Um,
Mm.
and so after doing it for a while, you sort of have a shortcut of just sometimes I could, if my body really wants it, like I could just close my eyes and I'm out. And it just kind of, as my teacher would say, you go into that absolute, like that, that that experience of like nothing, nowhere, like you just kind of just
Yeah.
disappear. It's pretty wild, and I can't uh, speak enough to how having a tangible experience of that has probably informed all of this other work I do. Because there's almost like a cipher, like a vocabulary to understand um, presence and when you're here and when you're not here, kind of thing. When
Yes,
you're,
that's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
And the nowhere, your no thing, your nowhere space that people can get to in meditation. Have you heard about dream yoga?
Tell me about dream yoga.
The only the serious yogis can do this, but you're in a dream and you're in a dream because you're lucid
Hmm.
in the dream and you're like, okay, I'm in a dream now. I'm gonna go meditate inside the dream.
Whoa.
So some people imagine wherever they are in the dreamland that they're sinking below the floor
Hmm.
and they can go into a meditative state while they're sleeping, while they're dreaming.
That's awesome.
I know, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to try
Yeah, you can
that.
try that. Next time you know you're dreaming, go,
Yeah.
yeah, dream yoga.
Meditate in your dream. That's so meta. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so meta. So what's your favorite um, event to
Sure.
work with? Do you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
like favorite events or do you do everything anywhere?
Do everything everywhere. I really personally fell in love with this kind of work, doing just one-on-one like performances, like interactions, much like
Mm.
this, like a conversation.
Okay.
Um, and typically, like it could happen in a play where, let's say, for instance, there's like a play and there's like a group of people, and one person gets pulled aside by a character, like, I need to tell you a secret here, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
And then there's that moment. And doing those kinds of interactions, I just noticed that, well, first of all, it's there's this kind of journey that happens. So as a performer, as an actor, when you're on stage with other actors, you kind of have that sense where sometimes you're BSing with together, like we're both doing this show for people watching. Hi, I'm not feeling any of this. Um,
Yeah,
you
like you're faking it. You're
faking
faking
it,
it
yeah,
on
yeah,
stage.
there's faking
Right.
it, yeah, for sure. And but when you do that with the audience very kindly may play along and be like, oh, this part of the show, sure, I'll play along. But they're not as much incentivized as another actor to play along with you.
Mm.
um, and so discovering that, meeting the people where they are, is how I started solving that problem, where I'm just like, okay, I'm going to meet you where you are and then gradually bring you into the story. Um, and so I remember doing that with like just various shows, and doing that more and more and more, um, especially with returning audience members. So it would be people who saw me in multiple shows. So they'd be like, okay, that's Terrence, but who are you today? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Especially doing a lot of shows in LA, get a lot of the same audience members. And so there was this discovery of just playing with the concept of, multiple lives, multiple realities. At first, just kind of tongue in cheek, like, oh, we met a lifetime ago, blah, blah, blah. You seem familiar, deja vu. But then it really kind of took on a whole new life where it was this sense of we're really doing this like as humans, like or at least what if we're really doing this, you know?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
oftentimes, like, the science and facts, justifiably, we want them to be there, you know? So, but it can also prevent imagination. So what I like to say is just what if, you know? Not saying that this is exactly what's happening. I'm just saying, like, what if there's this sense of just like, we're souls as actors deciding to play these characters, and so we're going to be like, okay, this time I'll be Terrence, you be Lisa, and we'll do a podcast. You know, how
Yeah.
fun will that be? Um, and it just really got me thinking about that, and doing a lot of these one-on-one performances with humans. There's something really special that happens communication wise that is just missed in other mediums. Like, writing to each other becomes about the words. Um, any kind of other limited form of connection becomes about that. Being in each other's presence, there's an energetic exchange that, I don't have an explanation for, but I just have examples of. Um, and just I see how healing that can be. And I think about just how, going way, way back in time, that's how information was shared. That's how, like, just knowledge was passed down, was through these energetic exchanges. So semantics, like, of word, choosing the right words, were sometimes forgiven, where it's kind of like, what I'm talking about. That feeling. It's like, yes, that feeling. Oh, yeah, like, because we're just trying to share authentically and communicate with each other. And so it goes,
Or or people are trying to hide from one
y-
another. Because
oh,
while you're talking about this, I'm thinking if I'm in the audience and there's a play and he wants
mhm,
me to interact with him, I'm freaked out. Like I came to sit here passively and
yeah.
want to be entertained. And then it's like, wait, what? You're talking to me?
That's a
No.
really great point. Like, I love that, because that's like, there's like, it makes me think of two things. There's like, one thing, there's this great Onion article that I love, which the headline is, "Oh no, the actors are coming into the audience." And it's just like, oh, he made eye contact with me. He's smiling. He's singing really loudly. What am I gonna do? Like, and that to me speaks of just, usually that occurs when, the actor is not meeting the audience member where they are. They're
Yeah.
kind of pushing this agenda, and so rightly so. Like, the audience member is like, I don't know if I want to be doing this that you're doing, like, you're doing it. So that's one thing. But then there's also, it makes me think of this other, this audience member, in particular, this guy. He was really great. He a big champion of immersive theater in LA. And he would always seem just terrified, like, kind of just not talk, just like this the whole time. And I was like, I would see this guy in different shows and have many interactions with him. And I'm like, why does this guy keep coming back? He hates this stuff.
He looks terrified, but he
Yeah,
comes back.
but he keeps coming back. And that was actually that's what he looked like, but it was, he was actually processing something much deeper. And he really genuinely loved the shows and wants to do them himself now, and just, um, it's really, it's kind of akin to, like, when you're doing a show in a theater and the audience isn't necessarily clapping and hollering at everything. They're processing it a different way. Um, so there's that. So, it's kind of understanding those two elements, that as an actor, people might be reacting in a way um, that's unexpected, because when people process a lot of information, they have different thinking faces and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
also, in the first place, is that empathy of understanding, where's this audience member at? Um, are they kind of like, this is a bit much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and that's, yeah, I mean, and that's okay. Absolutely, always. Because that, to me, that sense is almost like, it's the spotlight of just kind of like, all right, this is a moment that's being crafted, that has a light shone upon it, right? Like it's a spotlight moment. Um, and it's like the audience may not want to step into that, and that's very understandable and okay because they're like, no, I want you to do the show. Um, but even the proximity to something like that or the possibility of something like that is something that I've noticed awakens something in people. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of like, oh, I didn't know it was a possibility for me to step into the spotlight. I didn't know it was that. I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm glad that there is the possibility there that exists, and it just gets them thinking about that in different ways and starts the wheels turning. Um, and that is, I think, like a huge thing that's happening in our time right now is this move from passive observer to active participant. And
Yes.
you can see that with coaches, with entrepreneurs, like individuals are now taking actions in ways that are inspiring as opposed
Yes.
to just kind of like hiding in the group. People are being almost beckoned into the spotlight to not hide anymore in the
Hmm.
best way,
Hmm.
not in a kind of, spotlight, where is everybody? But more in the chance of um, like almost a self-realization way of this is your world. You are the main character of your story. What would you like to do? Um,
Right on. Oh, do you
yeah.
know about this book that's about 100 years old called The Play of Life? Wait, Francis Shovel Shin is the author.
Oh
And
man.
I think it's called Life and How to Play It or The Play of Life. Anyway,
Oh, I
she's
gotta look
like,
that up.
life is a play. You're the actor, you're the director, you wrote the play. So, like, get with it. Don't be sitting around being a victim when you are the one that is dreaming this up. And it was a pretty radical idea 100
I
years ago,
love that.
and
Yeah.
it's exactly what you're talking about now.
Love it.
Um, yeah, I think more and more people are waking up to that reality, and so they're saying, "Oh, I guess I need to really be seen, and I guess I really should share my gifts." What?
Yeah, yeah. It's that sense of like you came here for a reason. Like there's a saying in theater, like in plays, why is this day different for the play, right? Like you're watching a slice of life on stage. Why is this slice of life being the one that's featured? What is different about this? And that speaks to this whole like, okay, so you're here, you're called to something. What are you called to? And it's that's the beauty of it is just that there's room for everything in terms of just like, gosh, um, just stories of overcoming things, stories of just love and heartbreak, and just there's all of those. We have a lot of data of a lot of stories that were told now. Film's been around over 100 years, and there's so many TV shows and just everything. And now it's just like with AI, you're going to be able to make them immediately. But what they are, they're stories, and they're stories because we love stories, and we are living in a story, and we're almost like looking for just answers to our story. So it's just kind of like I think there's a sense of like if you're drawn to certain kinds of stories, there's a lesson there for you, or there's something in you that wants that resolution, or just to see what that story is like, because it ties into a mission. I used to think as an actor, you get to live many lives. So it's kind of like not a bad gig if you buy the thing of like, oh, you're here to kind of like live as many lives as possible, and then just kind of, be an actor because then you could just like go nuts. But I also think that watching, reading, like listening, just all like learning these stories and really experiencing them is another way of just um, it's almost like recaps of like what happened last lifetime,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I actually talked to somebody yesterday on my podcast, and she is a soul retrieval past life experiencer person, so you can
Hmm.
go with her and she'll hypnotize you into um, past life traumas. But she said now she's on to off of past life traumas and into past life delights.
Mm.
What is it she's exploring with her clients? What is it that your soul really loves to do and has done over and over in different lifetimes?
Oh my goodness. I
Isn't
love
that
that.
beautiful?
That's
And one of the
beautiful.
stories she's told was that she took this woman back to another life, and she's 5 years old and she's just come from a birthday party and she's talking about how fun it was. She got to eat cake.
Oh.
And and so in this life she loves to eat beautiful food and go to parties with her friends and don't feel bad about it. That's what your soul loves to do.
I know, this is what you came back on the ride for. You're
Yeah,
like,
you came
okay,
back for more cake.
more,
More cake, more
more
birthday
cake,
parties.
please. I love that. Gosh, what a great way to look at it. Just like past life delights.
Yeah. I mean,
I
we
love
are
that.
so focused in our society right now and have been for a while now is what's wrong, what
Hmm.
are our traumas, who broke us, how we can heal from that. And I love to look at what if it does work out?
Hmm.
What if it's amazing?
Yeah,
I found that book, by the way. It's called The Game of Life.
the game
And
of
you can
life.
play it.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. Gosh, like, because the healing of the traumas is for what? To live the delight, right? So
exactly.
it's like that
Yeah.
that is part that should be part of like the conversation too, of just like, okay, we know what you hate. What do you love? Let's get more of what you love in the picture.
And
Um,
maybe we have to look at what we hate to remember what we love because we're just like, yeah, if everything's like, oh, love, love, love all the time, we wouldn't know so much what we love. But we know what we
right.
don't love.
Yeah,
Everyone knows what they don't love, even little kids.
it's so true. And I that's something that I use to forgive like things not working out for me in the past, being like, oh, like I wish this had happened. And I'm like, well, I made those decisions because I wanted to see how they wouldn't work out. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? It's
Yeah. I
like,
think sometimes when it
yeah,
doesn't work out, it's a better lesson.
yeah, you remember it for sure. You're
You
like, well, I'm
so
not doing that
do.
again.
You so do. And
Yeah.
getting back to that concept of what is real
Mm.
in or outside of an immersive experience. I remember my daughter was about 4 and we're driving somewhere in the car. She's in the backside seat. She goes, Mommy, which is real? When you're dreaming or when you're awake? And I thought,
Right.
what do you think? I said. And she said, I think they're both real. I said, right on. I agree.
That's beautiful.
But if you're a little kid and you're still pretty close to the other side, you would be wondering, like, which part of this dream I'm in is real?
Well,
When I'm sleeping, when I'm waking, when what?
it's funny because you putting it this way makes it almost seem like when people ask what is real, they want more to know, does this matter?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, is this something of importance? Is this something that, I should be concerned with or not? And it's interesting because it's like then the decision falls on you. Does it matter to you? It's your experience of it, whether it's real or fake, it's your experience of it. So is this experience a matterful, meaningful experience for you?
Yeah. So should you pay attention to it or not? Because soon
Mm,
we're going into the age of artificial intelligence, and a lot of
hmm.
what we see is not going to be real, made by humans.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't it be a
Um,
kicker, right, if all of this was like a just a VR simulation to begin with?
some
And
people
then
would,
and then we're like, come on, it
come
was
on, I
fake the
didn't win
whole
that game.
time. Yeah. So it just it's there's a lot of like that's that I like these conversations because it makes me wonder about it goes deeper about the experience of it and what you want really. And it's such a silly thing that like people are like, well, of course I want to be happy, but it's like, but do you? because there was times in my life where I thought I wanted to be happy, but what I wanted to be was really hurt. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like I was like a
mm,
really like is indignant the word or like just kind of not in or just like oh I feel like unjustly like I wanted to hold on to that feeling
yes.
of just
Oh,
like
yes.
oh
Yes.
I'm right and they're wrong and it's just like and I like that wasn't making me happy. It was making me really just jealous and miserable. And it's like, oh, well, I guess I really wanted to experience that. And there's characters and stories that's their whole raison d'être. It's their whole like thing of, you know, I'm gonna be like the jealous guy who's like, meh.
Yeah.
But like when we're living it, we're such good actors, all of us. When we're living these situations with these emotions, we're so committed to the role. We're like, yeah, they're absolutely wrong, meh. And it's stepping away from it and being like, okay, like, hold on a second. Uh, what do you like? You've experienced it. Great job. Play's done. Bravo. Terrific.
Well, is
What?
that how you got out of that yourself? You're like, okay, I'm done with that. I'm done with that act. I'm done with that experience. The play's over. I have coaching clients who get stuck in a story and they can't get out. I
Yeah.
mean, I can give them all the tools, but if they keep going back to that story where they were wronged and those people that set them and maybe it was illegal and they're going to have to get a lawyer, what the F? You
Yeah.
know, if you keep kind of scratching that wound, it's not going to heal up.
Yeah. And there's usually something so much more going on, and this ties into also why I'm so passionate about this work. I truly believe that at the heart of all these things is the sense of people wanting to feel acknowledged and to feel
Mm,
validated and to feel like they matter. Um, and just that, like it's like that story in my TEDx talk, the about being three, right? And I'm like, it was this sense of like, oh, I exist, tell me that I exist, So it's like any kind of immersed experience, like where you're present, you first notice that you're present, and then you almost want this validation of just like, right,
yeah,
Um, and it speaks to this sense of identity, of just like um, life, existence, like just saying, hey, like, tell me this, there was a point to this. Um, or make me feel like I belong or like and these wounds like yeah they can hurt so much. So for me in particular, like I don't know, it's like some astrology thing of just like my Chiron is in like a wound of some kind of like, and that was one aspect of it, just noticing like just like oh you may be hurt by things like this, and I'm
mm,
like yeah, I am. Good job, stars. Um, so
damn,
yeah, and so
yeah,
it's just and your mind will look for those things once there's the decision in you that you've had enough. So even your clients, they found you, there's it's begun. It's already begun. They found
yeah,
you. Like
yes,
the journey's beginning. Whether they get stuck along the journey, that's a thing that happens. But like the fact that they, hit you up and working with you, that means that it's already unraveling this
yes.
sense of just like this lost in the method acting, right? It's kind of like you get a sense of like, oh, I'm just acting this role. This isn't really me, right? Yeah. Cool stuff.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people in transitions in their life start to wonder, who they are. Like, who is this character that doesn't have a spouse anymore? Or who is
Mm.
this character that doesn't have a house anymore? Or that job they did for so many years? All the things that they said they were
Mm-hmm.
or that they do, if those things fall away, and then they're like, who am I?
Yeah, it's identity, and like that's called like right the ego and all that. Um, that is makes the stakes like matters of life and death. I mean, to if you identify really strongly with something, it's almost that like the lens that you see reality through. So there's something in you that's going to be like, well, if that doesn't exist, then I don't exist anymore. Life is over. And
Yeah.
so it becomes this kind of this thing, and that's also from like the meditation. Just I remember this like meditating once and just having this sense of just like just fear of death, like just being like, oh, I'm dying. I'm gonna die, you know? And my meditation teacher was like, no, that was your ego.
Mm,
And I didn't really,
mm,
I'm like, what? But that's what like it's tied to this whole sense of just like we attach all these things to what our existence is and what like our identity in this existence is. And if those things are rattled or shook or just removed, then it's not known to the mind how easy it is to recreate that, or recreating it feels like a impossible task sometimes. And so yeah, it's like this is who I am. It's and because I think, you know, playing with this idea of the sole actor kind of thing, I think
mhm.
there's a sense of like you came on this earth to do this thing, and so it's almost like that's going to keep you on track to do that thing. Um, and so you're going to be, well, no, this is who I am, and just really like dig your heels in about it. And that's part of the lesson of just like, I mean, this delves into so many things of just like pain and delight. And I mean, if we're playing with those elements of just like um this is quoting Bashar. Being on TikTok, you watch a lot of
I
Bashar. I
love
think it's just
Bashar.
yeah, Bashar's pretty cool. So you know, I think he said like it's not unfathomable to like a soul that's like infinite, you know, the totality of everything, to be like, you know, suffering is fun or something. I don't know if those are the exact words he said. I don't want to put
Oh, I
words in his
like,
mouth, but it was
yeah,
something like that where it's just like it's a ride. It's kind of like, you know, just anything like any experience is something that's like, oh, if you know that you're gonna be safe, like if you're playing a video game, you know you're not the character in the video game, so you know you're doing things in the video game that you wouldn't do in with your own life probably, and so it's akin to all that. Um,
I love that. And I
yeah,
also had for months and months written a quote from Bashar, which he said, just say this to yourself every day. I am who I am, and that is enough.
yeah. Ugh, being
Um,
you are enough. That's like
yeah,
also that's
you are
another
enough because you are alive.
because you're existing. Like because you exist, you matter. Like if in the totality of like all of existence, if you weren't here, if you weren't meant to be here, you wouldn't be here. If you are
Yes.
here, it's because you are meant to be here.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
love that.
Ah, well, I'm so interested in what you do and how you have immersive experiences, and I'd love to let the listeners know how they could find you.
Absolutely. Well, my company's called Meta for You, so METAFORYOU .com, and I'm also on the socials. I'm on TikTok talking about this stuff, talking about immersive. Handle is at TL.IRL. But just look me up, Terence Leclere.
I
Um,
love it.
Send a message through. Let me know your thoughts about immersive stuff, because it's like it's a way of approaching life in a way that's hopefully illuminating. Yeah,
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you for the work you do in the world, and it's been lovely chatting today.
absolutely. Thank you, Delisa, for everything you do, and this has been an absolute joy.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.